Delozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm over here. Keep switching sides on you. Most of the financial questions have been asked. I have one of the line items that's in your budget that's more on a safety issue, and that is the new line. It was called in the past the Higher Education Assistance line for $1 million. It's now called the Sexual Assault Prevention line item. So I have a few questions on that as to the fact of those grants that go out on this line item and have in the past. Are they competitive grants for all schools, public and private?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know who received them? Could we get back from you who received them this year?
Yes. I may even be able to read it off to you, but I'll
okay.
answer
And how much they were? How big are the grants? It's $1 million, which obviously doesn't go too far, but how big were the grants typically to those schools?
The grants are up to $30,000 maximum, so they could apply for up to $30,000.
$30,000, okay. And do you receive back reporting on what that money was used for, if it was successful, and what changes it made on campus?
We will be receiving reports back from the institutions in June of this year, which will be we'll compile and then we'll put out a kind of like a report, an annual report on the status of the grants.
Okay, great. I will look forward to reading that. Does the DOE as a whole, with all the higher education establishments in Pennsylvania that we have, the ones that receive our funding, do we keep stats on sexual assault on campus? So we know what changes or positive impacts that these monies may have.
There is national reporting around the Clery Act, and so we are working on actually developing a report card that would provide some of that information to the public. And so we use Clery Act data.
Okay.
There's also the Uniform Crime Reporting Act that all institutions report to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and so we're compiling that
So
data.
we can bring them all together so we know and see.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different funding streams, obviously, other than this $1 million that obviously we're hoping have an impact on education and the ability to help not only the victims but educate people on how important this is, and no means no. Switching to a different subject real quick, is the issue of private loans for students. I've had a few folks come in, unfortunately, that have gone to private institutions, and they've been driven to a private loan service to receive their student loans. They have now pretty much been in a bad situation where the interest rates have accumulated, and they're kind of in a snowball, and honestly, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And they have come in, they're living in their parents' basement, they can't start a family because and the school was the one that drove them to those private loans, and they're not the FIA loans that we're proud of and the ones that help students and look for the ability for them to pay over time. And I couldn't help them because it was a private loan. It was not something that was government-backed. What is it that the department is doing to educate our seniors in high school, which may go through K through 12, but when they go make that leap, a lot of them don't know. A lot of them have never taken a loan out. A lot of their parents don't know. They may be the first one going to college in that family. How do we educate and talk about what positive loans we do have, like FIA, or other ones that certainly can help the student and not send them into poverty for the rest of their life?
So there are going to be two significant initiatives Will and his team engage in this year. First is a college counseling awareness, professional development series that's going to focus specifically on that, how to provide students and families the information needed to attain financial aid, to look at the systems, what to be wary of, what to be aware of, but also the process of navigating industry cert 2-year degree and 4-year degree accordingly. Secondly, we're going to be engaging in, FAFSA completion days, which will be, it's an organized effort to push out the information to inform parents, communities, and students around the process of filling out that financial aid paperwork. We realize that one of the biggest indicators of either not finishing or not filling out or not knowing, being aware of the, the opportunities that exist under FIA and FAFSA in itself is that personal connection, someone there to help you guide through the process and the system. And as a result, many students do exactly what you just shared. They come back after the fact and they say, hey, I heard about, or I saw, or I read. And we want to prevent that from happening by engaging with students and families earlier on.
And I'm sorry, does that go with all, like, I know we work with the public schools that we, give, and the private colleges and that type of thing, but a lot of times with some of these other institutions, students go to get a 2-year degree possibly, thinking that they will get into a field and field of study and get a good job, and that's what we want. And we've talked about college debt. The issue is still a matter of how much information can you get to that private institution and that student kind of going outside the normal educational route that is trying to better themselves but can't.
So we're working with private and public, and we're working through their systems to collectively bring them together. So I do have the list of 36. We'll make it a point to get back
Thank
to
you. I would like to see what schools got. Thank you very much.